Indy, I'll start with you first. I think that it's so important to see the dynamic between the young Queen Charlotte and the young Lady Danbury in this series. How important was it for you to see like two young Black women on screen having this bond and friendship, especially in a period piece, as Black people really not represented in that space as much?
Yeah, incredibly important. Not only is Shonda kind of opening up doors for lots of people from different ethnicities and lots of different walks of life to be presented in such a invigorating and powerful way, but being introduced to a genre that before they were not seen in that way at all. But there is so much stigma and also a lot of colorism within film and TV, and the fact that we can kind of bridge that in this show feels very special. And like a lot of things that Shonda is kind of the fore figure of, she is also a figure of change in this way as well.
I think this is like the reason that I went into acting, is to kind of change the landscape of how we look and tell stories. And there is something so powerful about the visual cue of two Black women. I think in the day and age that we are in, with like misogynoir at a height,
Yes.
it is stunning to see two Black women not in competition with each other, but actually fighting for the same thing and together. And there is so few moments that you get to see that truly manifested, not only in media, but also in our day-to-day lives. Like the work of white supremacy and the patriarchy is so that we fight against each other, and we're competing against each other, and we're isolated. And so to be in a show with a formidable Black woman, mama of television, you know, and then two of us in also a genre that used to be very much not a space for us unless we were playing slaves, you know, is one of those, it's like a big middle finger to the whole system. And gosh, how liberating.
I think it's really important, you know, as you said, period dramas have not been accessible to people who look like you and me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, through Shonda's brilliant writing and Shonda's vision, the door has been pushed open for us all to walk through and lean forward and experience these places that we weren't necessarily invited into. And, you know, having a friendship of two Black women shown on screen is beautiful and great and, you know, necessary. And to be able to, you know, see a Black woman put a wrap on her head as she's, you know, going to sleep, it's like, you know, we've been doing that for thousands and thousands of years. So to express that and to portray that, I think is really, really important for representation and for young Black women to see themselves. You know, and in a period drama, I think it's the perfect place to be doing that.
You know, a big theme in this series as well is mental health. What do you hope this series opens about as far as like conversations and dialogue and discussions about mental health specifically, and also given the fact that like it's addressed in like, again, a period piece, like it's supposed to be like so far long ago, I feel like it's still relevant to today.
I think that the thing about setting anything in a period piece is that there's just enough distance from reality that the audience is slightly more suggestible to it, you know, to themes. And I think in terms of mental health, remind me of the first part of your question.
Oh, well, how do you hope that what this series opens as far as like dialogues and discussions?
So I think actually the main thing I hope is that, and on reflection watching the show, I think it's more of a discussion of a man's relationship with his own self-hatred and shame coming from his affliction. And I think that maybe the best thing to come from that is a discussion about whether there is any need whatsoever ever for that level of self-hatred and shame, and that there is always going to be some level of love and acceptance, whether it's to be found within you or from your partner or just from anyone.
Yes. What do you think how would you describe the journey that Lady Danbury goes throughout this season. I think we kind of see her trajectory and like what her goals are and how they align with other people's goals, how they may not align with other people's goals, and how she kind of like confronts these head on in different ways. So how you describe her journey and her trajectory throughout this season?
Yeah, I think her journey starts off with, she's like in that space of like when you don't know what you don't know, you know? She doesn't know that she could have an opportunity to change anything. She doesn't even know what change looks like. Because ever since she was 3 years old, she has been groomed for essentially this man, this world. And so the moment she's given just that little inch, you see her just bust the door open. And it shows that there was clearly something that she was suppressing that entire time, you know, and what that must feel like to constantly have your hands almost tied behind your back, waiting to break free. And so you see that like it's almost like a plant trying to break through the soil. And when she finally does, she thinks she knows what she wants to keep her freedom. And in reality, it's not that, it's something much more simple, which is, I just want to be alone. And so for her to go on that journey and reach that point, I think is so amazing to play out over 6 episodes, because it also shows people that they could take the same journey as well. Like we don't have to stay the same. We are fickle human beings. Why not engage in that?
Yes. What I just saw, I was just like, the power of Black women, because the way she, she thought about like the greater picture at all times, even though like sometimes not even, I'm gonna say to her own detriment, but like it was always crucial for her to think about that.
Yeah.
I just love that so much about this character.
Oh yeah, no, me too. It's like Black Panthers. They were run by Black women, so it makes sense.
Period. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait for more people to see the show. When you first knew that this prequel series was happening, were you excited about the other looks that you will be able to turn this season? Do you have any favorite ones?
Yeah, I mean, the looks are really incredible, and the kind of blueprint for Queen Charlotte is that she's never seen in the same thing twice. Now we kind of recycle some stuff, so the idea of, recycling the wig, so it's the same wig, but yet done in a different way. And I actually said to the designer, we must get a picture of, do you know what I mean? The first one and the second one, and really emphasize that it's really important, especially in this industry and kind of waste and stuff like that, that it can be recycled into something else. That was really important for me, in the series going forward. And that's really exciting to kind of deconstruct something and then make it, something else. But they're extraordinary, they're works of art, and I've actually pitched to Netflix or whoever is out there behind the doors that there should be an exhibition.
Oh yeah.
A touring exhibition.
People love
of the
to see
wigs and costumes. I'm sure the V&A in England would be really into that. So I put that out there into the universe because, I think that would be extraordinary.
And lastly, what do you think Bridgerton fans may be surprised about when they learn more about this relationship between the king and the queen over the years? Because we see hints of it that popping from time to time in the original series, but this really gives us a full background of like how it all starts. How do you think fans may be surprised about what's to come in this series?
Well, I think you've touched on it. In Bridgerton, it's very much a kind of back story to what we see her doing in Bridgerton, and now it's out there, and she is a full-rounded character. You see the vulnerability of this larger-than-life character that you have experienced in Bridgerton. And, fans, that's the thing that they always talk to me about if they've seen Bridgerton, is those intimate moments, and it's just really beautiful now to be able to show all of that and where that has come from and the depths that is for Charlotte and what that means for her. And I've carried all of that in my imagination in Bridgerton, so now to be able to show that in Shonda's beautiful writing is phenomenal.
I wanted to ask, what can you both tease about your characters' relationships with the king and the queen, respectively? Because I feel like they both kind of operate under different they have different dynamics with each of them. You know, there's certain ways that Brimsley communicates with the Queen and their rapport, and certain ways that Reynolds communicates with the King and, you know, their dynamic. So what would you tease about what's to come?
Okay, so only teasing.
Only teasing.
Just teasing. Okay, so I think that what Reynolds and George have is very much a friendship, and there is a deep love and connection that exists there and has existed there for years. And actually, when I do lots of thinking about Reynolds and George, I consider lots of conversations that we don't see in the series, conversations that Corey and I have discussed as actors, because their bond runs very, very deep.
Yeah,
and unlike their deep friendship, we meet Brimsley at a point where he has not met the Queen, and we see their relationship build from there, I suppose. And he's been waiting for this moment all his life to serve and knows the job inside out, and all of a sudden he has to relearn everything to serve this young Queen who understandably doesn't really know what's happening and how to hold herself. And so we watch them sort of go on these stepping stones together to try and work out who each other are. As we go through, we start to see the foundations really lie for them.
Yes. And of course, Bridgerton has such this, you know, big, massive fan base over the years. How do you think these fans will be surprised about, you know, this show in particular? Because I feel like, you know, we see aspects of, you know, let's say the King and the Queen's relationship. We see like moments of that in bits and pieces. We see Brimsley, you know, like bits and pieces, but we get to flesh out so much. So what do you think like fans of the OG series will be surprised about as far as the series?
I think probably the extent of character exploration.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a smaller show. There's less characters, and I feel as though each of them has their own arc, and quite sort of turbulent arcs as well for us as well. So I imagine that will be a surprise that it's not. Yeah, but it's just as steamy.
Yeah. I mean, I mirror everything Freddie's just said. I think the fact that it's completely character driven and we really start to delve into the backstory of who these people are, I think that will make their viewing of the future Bridgerton season 3, etc., much more richer. And hopefully they can go back and rewatch 1 and 2 and go, I now understand more about these moments. Now these make even more sense.
Yeah.